What are the warning signs of dementia, including Alzheimer's? Let's get right to it. Now, first, let me explain a few things for context. Please do stay for the next minute, as this is important. Dementia is a progressive chronic illness that affects brain function and robs people of their independence and ability to live their lives on their own terms. A subtype of dementia called Alzheimer's disease is sometimes called type 3 diabetes because of higher levels of blood sugar that often precede this diagnosis. Now, to be clear, the higher levels of blood sugar that precede a diagnosis of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, can be in the pre-diabetes range with an A1C number of 5.7 to 6.4. The person does not necessarily have to have higher levels of blood sugar as are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is having an A1C of 6.5 or higher. Said another way, the threat to the brain can happen at the lower levels of prediabetes, not necessarily the higher levels of type 2 diabetes in terms of blood sugar exposure. Dementia is a general term for a group of symptoms that can affect a person's cognitive abilities, such as memory, problem solving, language, and behavior. Alzheimer's disease is a specific type of dementia that's characterized by progressive memory loss and cognitive decline. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia, but there are many others, each with its own causes and characteristics. All right, now, here are the top 10 warning signs of dementia. Warning sign number one, memory loss that disrupts daily life. Forgetting recently learned information, forgetting important dates or events, asking the same questions repeatedly, increasingly relying on memory aids or family members for things that they used to handle on their own. Now, practically speaking, this can also stress out family members or friends as this person increasingly relies on them for their memory of what they need to be doing, what times things need to happen, where they need to be, etc. Asking the same question repeatedly in a short period of time, like an hour, for example, is a red flag. Now, it's also important to keep all of this in perspective. This person is an adult and they're living a full life. Frankly, there's a lot to remember and keep track of. On the other hand, if this person is struggling with memory and losing the ability to track the important people, things, and activities in their life, it is time to get evaluated by a qualified health professional like a neurologist, a geriatrician, that's the kind of doctor who specializes perhaps in the care of the elderly, their primary care doctor, or others whose training is appropriate to objectively assess their needs. Taking action early is important. Hiding from the potential problem will not make it magically get better. And if it is caught in the earlier to mid stages, it is possible to slow the progression, stop it, or even reverse it. We live in an amazing time right now. The first step, though, is to get checked to find out if there is a problem with cognition and go from there. Bottom line, never take your brain health for granted. Like I tell my children, you only get one brain. Protect your brain, cherish it, take care of it. All right, moving on. Warning sign number two, challenges in planning or solving problems. This can include difficulty developing and following a plan, trouble working with numbers, including simple math, simple arithmetic, and problems paying bills or following familiar, easy to prepare recipes. So, when routine things become difficult, like doing daily chores or struggling to write a check, paying bills online, things of that nature, or forgetting a familiar recipe that the person has used successfully in the past. Maybe they can't tell where they're going, they don't know why they are going somewhere, they don't know where they are. They are not oriented to time and place. They are puzzled, right? It is time for professional assessment. Unfortunately, the person who is having these problems is likely not aware that they are struggling. It's interesting feature, of these kinds of diseases that it blocks the person from having that objective sense of themselves that way, that they are experiencing these kinds of problems. They're probably not aware that it's happening, but they may have an inkling, a sense that things aren't right. But it interferes with their own recognition that things are starting to unravel in their day-to-day life. It is critical that loved ones and friends help this person get to a health professional for proper assessment and diagnosis so that the appropriate next steps can be taken before a major harm occurs. All right. Warning sign number three, difficulty completing familiar tasks. This person might have trouble driving or navigating to familiar places, difficulty managing a budget, and problems remembering rules of favorite games. So here's an example. If the person is struggling to remember or cannot remember the rules of favorite games, like card games, maybe board games, this is definitely a red flag. If a person tells you they are having difficulty driving somewhere familiar, where they can no longer take public transportation without getting lost or confused, this is a red flag. It becomes dangerous for them to be driving for both themselves and the other people on the roadway and on the street. If a person starts spending way past their budget, or starts thinking that they don't have enough money in their budget for everyday living expenses, despite repeated proofs to the contrary that they do indeed have enough money, this is a red flag. If the person starts falling for scams that steal their money, that steal their identity, or perhaps both their money and their identity, this is a red flag. It is time for a qualified health professional to step in for proper assessment and diagnosis so that the appropriate next steps can be taken before this person is taken advantage of any further. I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Please comment below. If you find this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to this channel. This way you can help me grow the channel and reach others with this information. Thank you so much. All right, warning sign number 4, confusion with time or place. Losing track of dates, of seasons, and the passage of time. Trouble understanding something if it's not happening immediately or right away. Getting confused about where they are or how they got there. You know, it's interesting. This kind of confusion can start to seep into the person's daily life in some really simple ways. If they are not oriented to what day it is or what season it is or the time of day, if that becomes a problem, maybe they cannot tell that the morning has become the evening, for example. This is a red flag, despite the fact they saw that the sun came up and it was bright and shiny perhaps that day, and now in the evening it's gotten darker. If they are really disoriented around that, this is a problem. So let me offer one example of someone having trouble understanding something if it is not happening immediately. Perhaps the person stops being able to understand that if something started cooking 2 minutes ago, it won't be ready for another half hour, and they become upset or agitated, even if reminded that more time needs to go by before the food is ready. As one example, this is concerning as it is unusual behavior. If the person is getting confused about where they are or how they got there, this is a red flag. Okay, warning sign number 5, trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Things can shift for folks. This might show up with difficulty with reading, problems judging distance, or trouble determining color or contrast. Now, for people who were normally able to read and understand written instructions, if they suddenly have difficulty reading things that used to be easy for them to understand, it is concerning. Of course, you want to be sure that their vision is okay, and that if they need any updated eyeglasses or contact lens prescriptions, that's taken care of and handled, right? You want that to be current and accurate. Once you know, though, that they can see, then if they have difficulty with the interpretation that's needed and decoding for reading, a further assessment tied to their cognition, that is, their brain function, is appropriate. If the person starts to struggle with judging distance, especially if they are driving, it's time to get checked out before a tragedy occurs. If the person starts showing signs of trouble with knowing what color something is, or seeing and being able to express color, this too is a cause for concern. Trouble with expressing the contrast between pictures, colors, or images can also be a cause for concern. Warning sign number 6, problems with words that are new and problems with speaking or writing. These are new problems that might show up. This person might have difficulty following a conversation or joining a conversation. Maybe they stop abruptly in the middle of a conversation with no idea how to continue. They're lost. Struggling with vocabulary or finding the right word. Now, it's interesting. These next 3 can show up abruptly and worsen over time. If the person who is normally able to make conversation about everyday things starts to have difficulty, right, with following a conversation, joining in on a conversation, or discussing these kinds of concerns, just typical topics, this is worrisome. If the person just stops in the middle of a conversation and seems to have no idea of how to continue, that's a red flag. During a period of time that is calm and not overly fraught, overly tense, they're not highly stressed, if the person is struggling with their normal vocabulary and it takes them a long time to find their words and express themselves, this is a red flag. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you find this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to this channel. This way you can help me grow the channel and reach others with this information. Thank you so much. All right, warning sign number 7, misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. Now, this can show up in some interesting ways, this category. One is putting things in unusual places. It can also be losing items and being unable to retrace the steps needed to find them. This may also show up as the person accuses others of stealing. Now, listen, from time to time, everyone misplaces things. They just lose stuff, right? It happens to all of us. Or sometimes they do something silly and put something in a place where it does not belong. This is not necessarily a cause for alarm. But if the person is putting things in unusual places, like, say, picks up an alarm clock and moves it and puts it behind a bookshelf, that can be a sign that something is wrong and warrants further assessment by a trained health professional. If someone repeatedly loses items and has no idea how to retrace their steps to try to find the item that they lost, this too can be a red flag. Another example is if the person starts accusing others of stealing their things to try to hide the fact that they can't find their things themselves, and they feel flustered, perhaps embarrassed or upset about this, and not being able to find their things. That too might be a red flag. All right, warning sign number 8, decreased or poor judgment. Making poor decisions, especially with money, paying less attention to personal hygiene, and falling victim to scams more easily. Now, if someone makes repeated mistakes with routine handling of their money, this can become a cause for concern. It warrants careful attention. Perhaps they start handing out cash for no apparent reason to strangers, or they lose the ability to count out change, or to know when someone else has clearly not given them the correct change back, let's say if they've paid in cash. If they're paying with cards of any kind, digital payments, maybe they don't recognize in the store when they have been overcharged. These can be red flags. If someone no longer bathes or is unable to bathe or care for themselves because they don't remember the steps needed to do it for themselves, if the person neglects their personal hygiene, this is a red flag. Okay, warning sign number 9, withdrawal from work or social activities. This person might start to avoid social gatherings or work projects, community-oriented projects. Perhaps they have trouble keeping up with a favorite sports team or hobbies that they have enjoyed. Maybe they feel embarrassed about these kinds of memory symptoms and withdrawing. They're pulling back from social interaction. They're actively avoiding it. Now, a person who is normally social who starts avoiding work projects or avoids social gatherings, this can be a red flag. It is important to determine if they feel overwhelmed by the social side of their life or if something else is going on. This all by itself might have roots in something that is not a sign of dementia or Alzheimer's, and is best assessed in a holistic, big picture way. It's important to have the whole picture of what's happening in this person's life. If they have favorite sports teams or hobbies or civic activities and things like that, and they can no longer keep track of these things that they formerly found to be fun and really engaging things in their lives, this is concerning. If they have enough awareness that their memory is compromised and feel embarrassed about their symptoms and start to withdraw, to pull back from social interactions, or even if they lack that awareness and others notice this is going on, it's a red flag. All right, and then warning sign number 10, changes in mood and personality. Perhaps the person starts to exhibit these kinds of issues. They're becoming easily upset, maybe agitated, anxious, or suspicious of others. They're experiencing rapid mood swings for no apparent reason, and they're showing increased fear, depression, or apathy. Big changes in mood are important to track. These can be symptoms of changes in the brain that are part of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. If you notice several of these signs in yourself or someone you know, it's important to consult a doctor for a complete assessment. Early detection can help to explore treatments that may be available to provide some relief of these symptoms and maintain independence longer. It's definitely time to get professional assessment from a qualified health professional such as a neurologist, a geriatrician, that's a doctor who specializes in caring for the elderly, or perhaps their primary care doctor or others who are appropriate so they can be diagnosed and have next steps identified. These things are important for both the safety of this person who has the symptoms and for the safety of the people around them. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you find this video helpful, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. This way you can help me grow the channel and reach others with this information. Thanks so much. Please take great care of yourself and remember, you only get one brain. Please be kind to your health and to your mind, your brain. Take care.